Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. The next 20 minutes, we'll be talking about operating with zero trust. And before we get into the meat of our conversation, let's do a quick round of introductions. My name is Tim Knudsen. I'm Director of Product Management for Google Cloud Security with over our zero trust products. That includes BeyondCorp Enterprise, our zero trust solution for workforce, VPC Service Controls, our zero trust solution for workload, and Certificate Authority as a Service, our Zero Trust solution for infrastructure. I'm lucky enough to be joined here today by Mike Virginio from Wayfair. Mike, can you give the audience a little background about yourself and introduction, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tim. As you mentioned, my name is Mike Virginio. I'm the senior manager for the corporate security team here at Wayfair. My team is primarily responsible for securing the technology stack that Wayfarians use in our corporate spaces, our warehouses, and our call centers. I'm excited to chat with you today about our use of BeyondCorp.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. So let's dig right into it. So, first of all, why did we pick this topic today? So, operating with zero trust. The reason why we picked it is clearly, I think zero trust is spoken a lot about. But if you read a lot of the metrics that are published about zero trust, like the one we see right here, where 82% of organizations say they're committed to migrating to a zero trust architecture, you read far fewer metrics around those that have actually deployed a zero trust architecture and are actually operating with zero trust. And here at Google, we're very much focused on outcomes, especially since the fact we've been operating with zero trust as a corporation, as an organization for over 10 years. We want to focus on the outcome of how we can enable organizations to do this with our products, in particular, BeyondCorp Enterprise. And so in today's conversation, you'll hear from me on what we're doing from a product side to make it life easier to operate with zero trust. And you'll also be hearing from Mike on actually how he's put this into reality in practice. And the driver for this is when we sat down and have been sitting down with many of our customers, we definitely have seen that there is a number of challenges that they face when they pivot from vision and plan into implementation and reality. A number of surprises are met along the way as they move through this journey that we like to talk about, from shiny PowerPoint slides to actually plans and execution and operations. And as we work with customers and think about how to solve for this, we ourselves think about this in organizing around three pillars. One is built-in security. So think of built-in security as what can we do with BeyondCorp as an example to make the zero trust capabilities as if they are invisible or built into the cloud offerings. So two great examples of that are, one is the ease by which you can deploy BeyondCorp in front of workloads that are already on GCP. Another great example is how we have the built-in DLP and the built-in threat protection in Chrome browser itself. The other pillar that we're organizing around when it comes to enabling operating with zero trust is around ease of use. And we think about ease of use across many different dimensions. It is the range of applications, both browser based and legacy. We think about ease of use when it comes to operating at scale in terms of application count, device count, user count, or also ease of use when it comes to actually being able to support and troubleshoot and actually operate on it on a daily basis. The third pillar that we organize around, we think about operating with zero trust, is of course just making sure we can handle all of the use cases. I already mentioned a couple of them, but this is critical in terms of being able to enable you and all the organizations that are moving along this journey from their current architecture to one that is based in the principles of zero trust. This means being able to support use cases across multi-cloud, across legacy and modern application environments, across all the different types of devices, and all the other factors that are part of the complexity that goes into moving to zero trust. I'll come back and talk more about what we actually have in the roadmap right now to handle specific areas across these three pillars. But before we go there, let's actually hand it over to Mike and let's learn a little bit more about what Mike is doing at Wayfair when it comes to actually operating right now with zero trust. All right, Mike. Thanks again for joining us. It's really great to have you here. I think it'd be good if you could share with those who joined us today. First of all, how are you using BeyondCorp Enterprise to operate with Zero Trust at Wayfair?
Absolutely, be happy to, Tim. Wayfair is using BeyondCorp Enterprise to secure primarily right now our data analytics environment within GCP. Wayfair is a very data-driven uh, company and culture, so it's a key area for us and made it like a prime candidate for us to roll out the BeyondCorp solution to it. And actually, at Wayfair, we've been on our zero trust journey now for several years. We're making changes to our corporate network and the ways that our users access internal applications. And as we're moving our analytics environment from on-prem into GCP in the cloud, we needed a solution that would take the controls we typically put before a system joins the network to the application layer. And one of our goals of our zero trust program at Wayfair is to remove the need to have require you to be on the corporate network in order to access an application or resource. But we want to maintain the security controls that you typically put in place before you're providing an IP address to a system. So, at the VPN, you may check if it has a certificate or has antivirus or patch level or something like that. With BeyondCorp, you can take those controls you're performing at the network layer and move them to application and do it continuously as you're, using Cloud Console or something else within GCP. And we've been rolling that out, and it's been pretty successful here at Wayfair for sure. And I think that's all that we're using it for today. Although we have other expanded uses.
Yeah, so think about or coming to expanded uses. I mean, a lot of what you just spoke about is very much GCP centric. Are you using other clouds, and how do you see your zero trust transformation extending to other clouds, and particularly with BeyondCorp?
Um, Definitely. So, as mentioned, we have on-premise today, and we've been migrating to GCP. GCP is our primarily cloud platform that we use. However, we have other cloud platforms where applications will reside, and with BeyondCorp, we are able to use the zero trust principles and use that identity access proxy to secure the applications no matter what location they're in. So that's definitely something we're expanding to over the next.
That's great. Now, as I mentioned up front, there's definitely a lot of complexity, or there can be a lot of complexities, and this is part of this zero trust transformation. Um, would you mind sharing, some of those complexities you've run into, and how have you found you've been able to overcome some of those complexities with Beyond Corp, and how has it, helped make life easier both for you or admins or for your end users?
Yeah, definitely. So the Beyond Corp's, like I mentioned before, it follows our zero trust principles, so we can remove the IP address as a requirement to access these cloud applications. So as we move more and more applications, outside of our data center, whether it be third-party SaaS application or another cloud provider, we're able to apply those and have a single solution to simplify troubleshooting and support for that tech stack. Additionally, BeyondCorp Enterprise is built into the Chrome browser, so we didn't have to work with our employee tech teams or our desktop engineering teams to really convince them that, all right, we need to install a new agent that does this new security thing, because a lot of companies end up just getting bloat on those endpoints and complicating the tech stacks, and they start interacting with each other in unforeseen ways. So that made those conversations really easy, across our cross-functional teams. And lastly, it's actually made our end users' life easier. Before, our previous architecture required us to apply the same security controls across all of our Google Workspace applications. But with BeyondCorp, we're able to apply different access policies depending on the risk of that application. So Meet may have a different security profile than Drive, and BeyondCorp we can make an access policy to match.
Interesting. So it's great to hear about how you've gone through and taken advantage of some of the variations and options in the policy, access policy to adjust posture based by application type, and also sounds like that allows you to consider the balance between user experience and security posture as you work through each of these different use cases.
Yeah, no, it's been great to have both the security and user benefits, which are typically unusual, in the security space. And but actually, I had a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. Um, yeah, talk about Wayfair and how we use it, but I'd be curious to hear about how other customers are using BeyondCorp at their companies to achieve their zero trust goals.
Yeah, happy to share. I'd say there's probably three key use cases that are definitely worth highlighting that been involved with a lot of conversations with recently. The first is around the customer service agents. And this is really around the drivers of oftentimes large volumes of users. And the users can actually be seasonal too, so they range in their quantity over the course of the year. And oftentimes, also, organizations are looking to reduce the cost of bringing on that segment of the workforce by allowing them to use their own devices. So, unmanaged device, BYOD type of scenario. And this is really where the ease of Chrome browser and making using that as the key point for enabling access, data protection, and threat protection really solves for a number of problems. It solves for the access problem, it solves for the data protection problem, it also helps with the threat protection mitigation, and it all while all being supported on unmanaged devices. In fact, one of the things we've rolled out recently is the ability to effectively manage the policies on those unmanaged devices through Chrome. Um, which in some regards you can think of it as it effectively makes that unmanaged device more of a managed device, even though it's not a corporate owned managed device. So that's one key area where we're seeing a number of deployments start to roll out. The other use case is similar to yours around data analytics, as well as I'd say in terms of development environments. These are very sensitive applications with highly sensitive data or IP, and this is where the granularity of the access policies that we offer are definitely coming into play a lot. One that I think is worth highlighting is the ability to set access controls based on credential strength and requiring a security key as part of the policy for accessing some of those environments. That's one that, particularly for very sensitive, IP-rich use cases, our deployments are finding to be very useful. I'd say the third is more centered around just making it all work in the ecosystem that exists within the enterprise, and making sure that existing investments, uh, the value there is actually amplified. A great example here is what we've been doing with some of the integrations with endpoint detection response and unified endpoint management, or previously known as MDM type of capabilities. A couple to call out would be, for example, the integration we perform with CrowdStrike, um, and with Tanium. Our ability to take signal off of those endpoints and capabilities and make that available as part of the access policy just further enriches what you can do, and also it provides ability to be super granular in the access, and vary that by application, much like you're doing within Wayfair today. In fact, to that point, those three I just mentioned, we've also packaged up into a zero trust solution offering that will include reference architectures and basically things that make life easier to move into this operational zone for zero trust, leveraging BeyondCorp Enterprise.
Great. That's fantastic. And earlier you mentioned roadmap items, so I'm always curious what's on the horizon and what's coming from the BeyondCorp team.
Yeah, as a leader of the portfolio, always happy to share that, because we're obviously very excited about how quickly we're evolving beyond corp enterprise. There's five things I think would be really key to call out and share today. Um, uh, but trust me, these are not all, but first and foremost in the upper left is policy troubleshooter. This is something we already have available in preview right now. The name's super descriptive because that's exactly what it allows you to do. It allows you to enables you to quickly troubleshoot where a user may have encountered an access problem, either for valid or maybe it's a policy issue. But when you start to roll out many different policies, the ability to troubleshoot those and also support a workflow with your end users to reach out and to help desk and make it easy to troubleshoot those become really important when it comes to operating with zero trust and doing it at scale. So that's already out in preview. Now, the other thing we're going to do in this area is also make it easier to work with end users when it comes to remediation through customized messaging and other instructions so that, again, as enterprises roll this out, they can do so in a way that delivers a good user experience and also reduces the burden or potential burden on help desk and other supporting organizations. Client connector. That's another area that is really important to call out. It goes back to the point I was talking about earlier, Mike, when it comes to the range of environments and application types that we're running into. I mean, right now you're very much focused on the browser-based web use case. A lot of organizations have a lot of that. They also have a set of apps that are still client server like SAP GUI, where they need to also zero trust those. And what the client connector does is exactly that. It expands our ability to deploy zero trust policies not only across browser-based and TCP, but across other protocols like UDP and app cases like client server. So that's a capability we also have in preview, and it'll be moving into its next tier preview at the end of this year and into GA in the first half of next year. Now, the point there to also highlight is this does move us from having both a browser-based option to one where we have browser-based and a option to support thick clients with our client connector. And I'm highlighting that because this then gives organizations the flexibility to choose what deployment option they're going to use from BeyondCorp to match to the use case requirements that they have. And that's a similar theme to what we're doing with App Connector. App Connector is another way to establish connectivity to applications that are outside of Google Cloud. And this could be apps that are sitting on-prem. These could be apps that are sitting in other clouds. And with App Connector, this is just a very simple way to do this over the internet. So you can extend zero trust out to all those workloads as well. This capability is also already in preview and will be expanding into its later preview stages and moving out into GA beginning of next year. Now, beyond just the application access use cases, we're obviously still paying a lot of attention to what we can do when it comes to data protection and threat protection. And two areas that are really worth highlighting here is around DLP and enhancements there. First being the context-aware DLP. So think of this as us allowing you to take more sources of signal about the device itself that we're collecting and use that to make more fine-grained DLP policies for that user or that group of users. On the threat protection side, we're also expanding that quite a bit. And one of the things that we'll be rolling out there is enhancements around URL reputation scoring and the ease by which of applying policies around that. Then also categorization. So we'll have a set of top level and subcategories that you can essentially just check and use that for very easy filtering and controls on where users can or are allowed or disallowed to go to on the internet. Again, both the context-aware DLP and the URL threat protection will all be part of those built-in capabilities that are featured as part of Chrome browser. So look, as I said, there's a lot more here. To talk about everything from what we're doing for further optimizations around DLP to pass through benign documents, and other optimizations with our machine learning, and a whole slew of things are coming around the access side as well. But these five right here, I think, are pretty key and relevant to a lot of the topics we spoke about today, Mike, when it comes to operating with zero trust. So with that said, really appreciate you being able to join today, Mike, and share with the audience exactly what you've done and how you've made it happen. It's really great to see that that 82% is translating out the other side of the funnel to reality. So again, thank you very much. And for those who want to learn more, we have three other sessions that we want to call your attention to, all happening on Wednesday, October 13th. First, please tune in to the Spotlight keynote from 10:40 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. You definitely want to catch the live BeyondCorp Enterprise demo. You'll see use cases in action, so you can actually see the capabilities being used in real world type of settings. And then lastly, we'll be hosting a live Q&A session, so you can come and ask whatever questions that we may have triggered through these conversations, or that you have top of mind based on what you've heard here today. So again, thank you all very much for joining us, and we appreciate your time being spent with us today.